We start with 3 state lawmakers sending a letter to Oklahoma Governor Kevin Stitt asking him to help reform the state's whistleblower protection laws. You're watching Fox 23 News at 6. I'm Shay Rossi.
And I'm Sarah Whaley. So glad you're with us tonight. Fox 23's Rick Marinon brought you extensive coverage of a day-long hearing in the Oklahoma House of Representatives where allegations of rape and cover-up within the Department of Corrections came to life. Rick has this new letter now and other new developments in this update to his Fox 23 investigation.
I'm going to try to make sure it's not just a lot of noise and not just a lot of mouth service, but that we put some action behind it.
Oklahoma House Corrections Committee Chairman Justin Humphrey vowed on Fox 23 last month to make sure the historic hearing on rapes and allegations of cover-up at the Eddie Warrior Correctional Center in Taft wouldn't be just something that fades away. Now Humphrey and 2 other committee members sent this letter to Governor Kevin Stitt asking for his support for specific reforms.
Every time I did my job, they would put me under investigation for something.
The letter focuses mainly on the testimony of Dr. Whitney Lewis, a psychologist at Eddie Warrior for 3 years who testified that inmates told her they were sexually assaulted by guards. Lewis says she was assaulted herself.
She came up, she grabbed my right butt cheeks and then just squeezed it. And then I turned around and I looked at her and she goes, "Oh, I thought you were going to hit me for sure."
Lewis and 2 other former DOC employees said they found evidence of rape and sexual assault in Taft and at the state pen in McAllister, reported it, and then the agency fired them and proceeded to give them a bad recommendation to anyone who would call wanting information on their employment history. Humphrey says the agency is using its full force to crush those who wouldn't just go with the flow, and he says all agencies need better whistleblower protections.
If you want to talk about safety of staff and you want to talk about safety of inmates, the doctor is the one who is trying to prevent incidents, and she should be commended.
The letter Humphrey and other committee members sent to Stitt asks for 4 specific things. 1, introduce legislation that clearly defines the Whistleblower Act and equally defines punishment for administrators who intentionally violate the act. 2, introduce legislation to establish appropriate actions for agencies such as the DOC that willfully ignore government oversight. 3, conduct an independent investigation into the DOC to determine the safety of employees and inmates. And 4, immediately rehire and back pay Dr. Whitney Lewis. The committee said after Lewis had testified, they were shocked Lewis, who the court has ordered be reinstated to her post twice, has now gone months without a paycheck while raising children.
My kids ask me, like, "Why aren't you going to work?" But so I have to tell them, like, that I stood up for something I believed in and that this is what happened.
The Department of Corrections told Fox 23 it cannot comment specifically on Dr. Lewis's case. They say it is still pending litigation. However, the director of the DOC agreed to meet with state lawmakers behind closed doors in executive session to discuss what he calls confidential personnel matters. If you'd like to see the Department of Corrections response to the July hearing on the alleged rapes and cover-ups, you can find that inside this story on fox23.com. Covering news that matters, I'm Rick Marinon, Fox 23 News.